Walk with me through the cellar door.
A storm is coming, Francis.
A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
In the beginning, God created heaven and earth, and the earth was waste and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light."
It worked.
That's good?
Yeah,
All right,
it worked.
good.
Holy crap. Are you God?
I am actually God. You can't prove it's not true.
That's very true. Well, David, welcome to the show tonight, David. Thank you so much for joining Cellar Door Skeptics and talking about the upcoming American Atheist Convention that's in Oklahoma City.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. I am really excited about this convention, and I'm all about talking about it. Thanks for having me on to do so.
Yeah, no problem. Anything to support the atheist community, we 100% endorse. And the nice thing is, I went through your website, and I went through a lot of the speaker roster, and it looks like you have a very diverse atmosphere of different speakers and other events that you're bringing to the stage, even including a lot of community activists and a 13-year-old who's going to come talk about, I don't know, I guess you could tell us exactly what she'll be talking about.
Well, she is being forced to say she has been forced to say the Pledge of Allegiance in her school, and she is facing recriminations for refusing to stand for the pledge. And she is very, very eloquent. She'll be coming to the convention, and she'll be speaking over dinner. She's young, so we're not putting any sort of pressure on her to perform. But she is a very eloquent speaker who is being defended by the American Atheist Legal Center. And the American Atheist Legal Center is now headed up by Allison Gill, who was one of the founding people from the Trevor Project. For those of you who don't know, the Trevor Project is the organization that made conversion therapy an issue in this country. And we are really thrilled to have, as our legal director, a person with the level of passion and skill that it takes to run the legal center for America's Firebrand Atheist Organization. And so she and Mara, the 13-year-old girl, are going to be presenting about what it's like to be literally harassed by your teachers and your students just for sticking up for your own civil rights. And that's going to be one of the. I believe that you have hit on one of the dark horses for the big hits of the convention. Nobody is looking at that. Everybody is looking at Hugh Laurie. Hugh Laurie is our keynote speaker, and I am all giddy about that. And he's going to be fantastic. And I hope I'm going to talk about him in a little bit, but I think you have hit on because we've got a lot of speakers. You're right. It's very diverse. And we're very proud of our diversity, and we're very proud of the welcoming atmosphere that we're providing. And we're very proud of the diversity in all sorts of ways, including the diversity of ideas and approach. And we've got real firebrand atheists that are going to be going up there. We've got Barry Lynn, who's about as opposite of firebrand atheist as you can get. He's the softest, mushiest, huggiest, feeliest guy probably on the planet. No exaggeration there. But he's going to be coming. And so people are talking about the people that they all know, but I believe you have hit on something that is going to be a very poignant, very heart-wrenching and encouraging and wonderful story that people are going to hear. They're not going to know it's coming. But every once in a while, at every American Atheist Convention, we have people up there that nobody knows. We have, a couple of years ago, we had the oldest black woman to scale the North and South Pole in the world. Okay. And she was awesome. Nobody knew who she was, but she was awesome. The year before that, we had a woman who started an atheist organization in her retirement home.
Oh, wow.
And she was awesome. And so this year we're going young. We've got a famous trans activist, Gavin Grimm, is coming, but we also have got Mara coming. And I think what you're going to see from these young people is a sense of passion and a sense of fire and a sense of longing for justice that is going to be, it's really going to permeate through the convention. And I'm really, really excited. I'm really excited about this convention, guys. I got to tell you, the American Atheist Convention, we do it every year, and it is always fun. We have the largest atheist conventions in the country. We have the most fun atheist conventions in the country. But this year, I mean, it's 2018. It's not like an anniversary year. It's not, it's our 55th anniversary. So it's not like this huge anniversary year. It's not like this big meaningful year. But this convention is shaping up to be awesome. It's just awesome. And there's this cycle that you go through when you plan a convention of this size, of this magnitude. And, you go through the planning phase, and then you get into the nitty gritty of planning it and getting everybody on board and starting to sell tickets. And you go through this lull, right? You go through this emotional lull where it becomes very hard work. And there's a lot of things that are in the air, and you don't know. There's uncertainty and what's going to happen. And then as you get closer and closer, as you start selling tickets, as people start signing contracts, as people start buzzing about it on the internet, I can only speak for myself, but my emotional intensity soars.
Yeah.
Okay, I come out of that trough and I go to the moon, and I am right there now. And I am looking at this roster, and I mean, how many times have people said this? But I really mean it. This might be our best convention ever. Yeah, it might be.
And one of the things I get excited about, is when you do bring about, the activist speakers, because there's a lot of conventions out there that want to, I know you have Seth Andrews, but, a lot of people take Seth Andrews and go, hey, look, it's the thinking atheist. It's a big solely, let's just look at this side of the entertainment. And yes, Seth brings some activist value to things, but there's some other activists that you have on the bill that are a little bit more, for me as an individual, is more exciting. And things you've done in the past is kind of in the same vein of things that you guys have always brought some sort of an activist tint to it. And it's kind of one of those things. When I came out about 5 years ago. And when I came out of Christianity, it was kind of one of those things where I was super into the whole atheist thing. What can I learn about how to destroy Christianity? And now I've kind of transitioned into, I like that part of it, but I enjoy the activist part, because how do we change society faster? And let's get rid of people's age-old myths. Great. But at the same time, if we can't take care of the poor, if we can't change and have, better laws and, better people in office, for Christ's sake, it doesn't mean anything.
And of course, American Atheist is an activist organization. Okay, we don't just do conventions. This isn't just a convention. We're not putting on a convention for just to have a convention. We're an activist organization. We were founded by Madeleine O'Hare in 1963. If you ask me what I am I am a professional activist, and I wear that moniker loudly. And who is coming to this convention? Yeah, we got a lot of activists coming, and we've got tools to make people into activists. For instance, you talked about feeding the poor. Well, we're actually going to feed the poor at this convention. We're actually having a charity food packing event for all the atheists to put on hairnets and pack food for poor people. And we're going to pack food. We're going to pack 25,000 meals for poor people at this convention. And then we're going to have an after party to celebrate our own damn selves, because we did something good for our local community. So that's all of us being an activist. But you were talking about the activists on stage. And let me tell you about the activists we got coming on stage, because a lot of people don't know who Barry Lynn is. Barry Lynn was the executive director of Americans United for the Separation of Church and State for 25 years. He is the man. He is let's see if I can put it. He's not part of the atheist movement, but he is as close as you can get without being a part of the atheist movement. He is the separation of church and state guru from the non-atheist side. He's a reverend. He's not an atheist. And he is the atheist movement's greatest ally, frankly. He is a fantastic guy. He's a good friend. And I'm really happy that he's coming. And like I said before, a little tongue-in-cheek, he is a very warm, soft, touchy-feely, wonderful, give you a long hug kind of guy. Now, on the other side of that is a woman named Inna Shevchenko. And if you haven't learned who Inna Shevchenko is, I am going to put her in front of you, and I'm going to let you hear what fire sounds like. This is the leader and president of Femen. Femen is the European activist group of topless jihadi protesters who protest Muslim imams and mullahs as they go around preaching their hate. These are the people who make the news in countries where you get arrested for doing this type of stuff. These are the people who, these are the people with no fear. And their leader is coming to the American Atheist Convention. This is a woman. She breathes fire, and she gets me fired up. Okay, it's hard to get me fired up. There aren't a lot of people who get me fired up. There aren't a lot of people. I'll go to a lot of atheist conventions, okay? And there are some people that I will just definitely see because they're friends of mine. I will see some people that they're definite that maybe I won't see because I've heard them too many times before, or maybe they're just not. Maybe that's just not me. But I will do anything. When I sit down and I listen to Inna Shevchenko, my heart races. I get excited. And that's a hard thing to do, and Inna does it. And so she's coming. So we've got two sides of that scale. So yeah, Seth Andrews is going to be there. Seth is a board member of American Atheist. We're very pleased to have him on board. He's going to be doing a podcast live on stage. And if you, the amount of breadth, and of course, like I said, Allison Gill, who is one of the founders of the Trevor Project and is now the American Atheist legal director, we have activists on stage from all different sizes and all different stripes, and it's going to be awesome. And then on top of that, we've got comedy. On top of that, we've got music. On top of that, we've got free drinks. I'm sorry, did I say free drinks? Yeah, I actually said free booze, didn't I? Wow, that's a thing. We're actually going to have a comedy show with Leanne Lord and a gentleman named Andy Wood, who you may have seen on Portlandia. We're going to have we're going to have a Cards Against Humanity tournament. We're going to have a lot of fun. And one of the things that I want people to understand is that this is going to be, like you said, very, very diverse, very, very welcoming, and very, very safe. We're going to make this some people, some other conventions have come and gone, and they have not gone very well with regard to making women feel included, making minorities feel included. And what we have to do is realize that there is just there's an asshole contingent. Can I swear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. There's an asshole contingent in the atheist movement, and some people don't realize that as the atheist movement has grown, there's people who are the group of people who are kind of rude have grown too, and this convention is about hearts and brains and no assholes. So I'm not putting anybody on stage who's going to say something just to make people angry. I'm not putting anybody on stage to give them a platform for bile or just so that they can get YouTube followers or tweets or whatever. We're doing activism, and we're doing it in a way that's going to make everybody feel welcome, everybody feel included, because that's the atmosphere that we want: fun, happy, and informative, and enraging, and fire-breathing, and charity, and love, and community. And this is what an atheist convention is supposed to be like, and it's all coming together. And when you put these conventions together, it's hard to strike the balance. It's hard to make that happen. That's not something that you can just say, oh, I'm going to make a convention like this. You have to actually balance it. You have to work it. And this one is coming through. This one. Oh, you can hear. I hope you can hear the excitement in my voice, because this is something that I'm very excited about. Yvette D'Entremont is going to be there. Victor Harris, who is a fantastic poet and also a friend of mine and also a chef, is going to be our MC. And he's also a DJ, so he's going to be DJing our parties. Did I mention that there would be free drinks at the parties? Because I don't know if I mentioned that. Because I don't know if there are too many. I mean, it's really I'm really kind of bubbly about this, and we haven't even talked about Hugh freaking Laurie yet.
That's true.
Well, that's what I was going to get into. Is you're going to be bringing in Hugh Laurie. You mentioned music a little bit here. I mean, first off, I love the fact that your administration, the organization of this entire thing, like you guys have taken a really strong and organizational approach to it. So you're looking at all the things that could potentially cause some trouble. And then you have someone like Hugh Laurie come in, which is going to bring, a good face to it. I guess one thing you could maybe touch into is he going to be just giving a speech, or do you think, because I mean, you mentioned music, he is huge into tunes. Do you think you can get him to grab an instrument at some point?
Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what Hugh's going to do. He's going to do everything and anything and everything he wants. He is. I had breakfast with him just 2 days ago. Okay, this is the first podcast that I've done since I actually sat down at a table, me, my vice president Kim Abel, and Hugh Laurie for breakfast.
That sounds amazing.
And let me tell you, it was 2.5 hours of awesome. 2.5 hours of awesome. This guy is engaged. This guy is interesting. He's brilliant. He's well read. He's really well informed. He is passionate about helping people. He's passionate about doing good. He is coming in, and he's modest, and he's a little bit shy. And so we've given him a bunch of different ways to do it. He is going to choose how he's going to do it. Yes, we have floated with him that there's going to be an extra keyboard sitting around just in case he knows that, but there's no pressure on him to do that. I told him what I'm going to tell you. He can come out on the stage and wave and leave, as far as I'm concerned. But no, he won't. But he can do whatever he wants. He can stay as long as he wants, and he is coming, and he is getting up on stage. And we do have a couple of different opportunities for him to interact with the crowd and to be a part of the charity event. But I don't know if he has time for any of that stuff, because the charity event is on Sunday and he'll be speaking on Saturday. So I don't know what he wants to do. I don't know what his time is going to be. He is literally an A-list movie star, and the amount of time he has is limited. And the control he has is on his own time is limited. So hedge. He's going to do whatever he wants. But I got to tell you, from sitting at the table with him for 2.5 hours and talking to the man and seeing him, he would interrupt us to tell us a story like 3-4 times. And the stories that he tells us, okay, they're not regular stories, okay? I was on a set with Dennis Quaid, and the horse got away, and I was on the ground because I've been shot. And then, and he just got stories on stories, and he tells them so well. I don't know what's going to happen, but I will tell you that from what I have learned about him in the past few days, and from my exposure to him in the past few days, I can tell you it's going to be freaking good. He is going to bring it, and he is going to bring it for the simple reason that he wants to bring it. He supports the cause. He supports American atheists, and he is he's a righteous dude, and he's a good guy, and that's so nice. It's really nice to sit down with somebody and to see some genuineness, genuine love, genuine caring.
Yeah.
I mean, to sit down with him and to break through just a little bit of a wall and to see the human behind the name. And I saw the human.
Yeah. Did he name drop Fry at all?
He did not name drop Fry.
Oh man!
He name dropped Fry and Laurie, so I guess he did.
Oh, okay.
But it's really interesting to sit down with a guy like this, because I don't know. He's gonna
bring a perspective from across the pond. First of all, he's going to bring some of their ideas, because
that's not new. Richard
I know
Dawkins
that.
can do that. AC Grayling can do that, but this guy is an A-list movie star.
Yeah,
and this guy, I mean, so yeah, I can get across the pond stuff from a lot of people, and that's just great. One of the first people I interviewed back when I first started activism in 1996 was Douglas Adams, who gave me a very good perspective change on the difference between the UK and the US. But this is way beyond this. This guy's got stories. This guy's got anecdotes, and he's got passion and fire and love. He's got love.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
I'm just so honored that he's coming, and you know, it was the thing. It was totally a thing to sit down with this guy and to listen to him interrupt us, because he could have been out of there in an hour. You know, we're going in. We're going to have breakfast with Hugh Laurie. We don't want to waste the man's time, right? We want to get in. We want to get the logistics done. We want to make him happy. We want to get him out. So we don't want to take too much of his time. But he's the one who stayed. He's the one who dragged it out. He wanted to stay with us. He wanted to talk to us. He wanted to tell us stories because he likes us, and that's a thing.
And that's the nice that's a nice thing, though. You know, how many times do you get that out of an A-list movie, you know, actor? You don't get that very often. They don't sit down all the time and do that. And that brings that humanist tint to things.
When I created the Reason Rally back in 2012, one of the main objectives of Reason Rally 1 was to create an event so large that we could attract A-list celebrities and bring in the news and bring in because they lead. And the best thing that we got, I mean, Reason Rally 1, we had 30,000 people at Washington, D.C., but the biggest celebrities that we had were videos from Penn Jillette and Bill Maher. And Bill Maher, you know, and I appreciate it. You know, thank you, Bill, if you're listening. That was great. It was a video, and it was maybe 10 seconds of original video. And that was great of him to do it, but that was the level of stardom that we could attract back then. Now we've got literally one of the most famous people on the planet. And he's coming to us because he likes us. And this is something that I'm just so excited to see. It's something that I'm really excited to be part of. I'm really humbled that this is happening. And so this guy's coming. Oh, and so let me wrap this around, okay, and tell everybody the other part of this. So we've got Hugh Laurie coming. We've got a lot of smiles. We've got a lot of fun. We've got a lot of charity. We've got fantastic activists. We've got a broad, diverse range of speakers. And here's the kicker: we are deliberately keeping our prices down. We are deliberately keeping our prices down. Our main ticket is $250 for the weekend. And if you can't afford it, you can take the lower price of $99 for the whole weekend on the honor system. If you can't afford the $250, just pay less, because we want you to come. And if you're from Oklahoma, or if you're a student, it's $50 for the weekend. Okay? Because we want the locals in there. We want the young people in there. We are keeping this priced low. We want a crowded, full room. And what is this going to do? A lot of people don't understand what it's like. If you've never been to an atheist convention of size, okay? It's one thing if you've never been to an atheist convention. It is another thing if you've never been to an atheist convention of size, a big one, 500, 700 people, 1,000 people. If you've never walked into a room full of atheists, a big room full of happy, fun, lively atheists, you haven't experienced the community that we have. And I want everybody to feel that. When American Atheist has our conventions, we always have the largest atheist conventions in the country. This convention will sell out because I'm designing it to sell out. I'm bringing in the best speakers, I'm bringing in the best activities, and I'm keeping the prices way, way low because I want to fill the room, because I want the people to understand the intensity and the fire and the beauty and the community that we are creating. People have to understand that people have to feel it. When I go into an atheist convention of size, you know, and shout out to all the people who make the local conventions. I love those local conventions. They're great. A lot of people cut their teeth on local conventions. It's wonderful to have a convention with 150, 200 people. That's a good group. It's a good size. It is not the same It is not the same as 500, 700, 1,000 people. It is not the same. And when you walk into a room like that, and everybody is, and the people are young, and people are diverse, and people are happy, you're going to feel a sense of community that many atheists, most atheists, the vast majority of atheists have never felt in their lives. And you're going to love it. And then we're going to put Hugh Laurie on the stage.
I mean, wow. That's going to be amazing to see him up on stage there. And basically what you're going to get there is you're going to get, the star power. You're going to make it a little bit more normalized. That like this guy is incredibly famous, and he's going to be bringing in that perspective of a recognizable face. But you're also going to be bringing in some things that like to round out everything. So there's a gentleman coming named Mohammed, I believe it's Al-Qadra, and he's going to be talking. He's going to be talking from the perspective of the Jordanian ex-Muslims. And I mean, a lot of us that are trying to bring, our empathic responses to the world, because a lot of us live in, a pretty uneducated part of, the entire global feeling of everything. And so I'm really interested in, you're going to be bringing in someone who is an expert on Islam and what it's like to be in that. And that's a great thing too, to anyone who's never experienced that would be a place that they could experience this. But is Muhammad, is he someone that's been kind of up and rising? Because I've seen that he's got some pretty important things here from the American British nonprofit organizations and everything that they've been moving him from to the US, which, I mean, is he going to be bringing any news stories or anything that he's really never told before, I guess?
Well, I don't know what he's going to say, but I know that this man is a hero in my book. Okay? This man is a man who risks his life, literally risks his life, to bring truth and honesty to people that can't otherwise get it. This is an actual hero who has had to flee Jordan. FRF have raised money to bring him, to get him out of Jordan. American Atheist is bringing him here to raise money here to get him settled here in America. That's one of the things that we're doing, because this man deserves our help. He needs our help, and he deserves our help, because this man is a literal hero. This is I'm not being hyperbolic here. This man is a literal hero. This man literally has, bullet holes in his windows in his home. This man, actually, I mean, I met him in London maybe 6 months ago at a secret ex-Muslims convention at which I was keynote speaker, and his story is just it's tear-jerking, and it is one of many people. But this guy, I mean, just think about it. He is the leader, the founder, and I guess now former president of the Jordanian Atheists. Just think about those two words together, the Jordanian Atheists, okay? This man is an actual literal hero. And I'm going to put him on stage after I put up Inna Shevchenko and before I put up Barry Lynn. And did I mention Hugh Laurie? It's just humbling and exciting how good this convention is turning out. And I'm really kind of giddy about it, as you can tell. So anyways, the website. Let me get the website, because I'll just keep talking about this forever and everybody will say, okay, well, how do I get tickets? Okay, so the website is atheists.org, and the website for the convention is atheists.org/convention 2018. And I hope everybody goes. If you can afford to pay full price, I am asking you to pay full price. Of course, because we're a nonprofit organization and we are doing this to raise money. So please help us raise money. Buy tickets, but there is going to be a VIP reception, and somebody might be there signing autographs. Who might be there? I don't know, but there's a VIP reception, and it's going to be really awesome if everybody can spend the money. So if you can spend the money, please come, spend full price, and help American Atheists. If you can't afford it, come anyways. Take the cheaper price. It's honor roll. Just come. Just get in the seat and enjoy yourself. And maybe next year you can donate. Maybe next year you can pay the full price. But and if you're a student, $50, man, $50. If you're an Oklahoma resident, $50. If you're a veteran, it's $99 for the weekend. Please come and enjoy this convention, because I got to tell you, this could be the greatest one. I mean, I put on conventions. I've been president of American Atheist now since 2010. So this will be my 7th convention. My first was 2011. This will be the 7th convention that I put on, and I think, this may be number one as far as the quality of the speakers, the breadth of the speakers, the diversity of the speakers, and the quality of the program that we're offering. I'm just giddy about it, and I hope everybody comes to the American Atheist National Convention. It's on Easter weekend. It's March 30th through April 1st, and it's in Oklahoma City. It's at a nice Sheraton. We got a great room rate for the Sheraton, so the rooms are nice and the rooms are cheap. And so please come and enjoy yourself, because this is going to be one hell of a show.
And one of the things you brought up earlier is the VIP dinner, right? And you're saying, hey, if you could spend the money, if you could do all these things, but tell everybody what that money goes to, because American Atheist does a lot of great things. And, on our show, that's kind of what we like to showcase, right? So you're on here, you're talking about all the pomp and circumstance. You're talking about having a great time. You're talking about how we can learn a bunch of things and how you can meet, a major A-list
person.
Yes. a major A-list, person, right? And how you can meet a bunch of people that think like you, right? But what does that money go to for American Atheists? I mean, you guys have technically, American Atheists have been around since the 50s. And
1963, right?
Oh, 63. There you go. Hey, I was giving you 13 years credit,
and we were founded by Madeleine O'Hara, and we are the champions of the separation of church and state from the firebrand atheist perspective. So we right now, basically, when you think of what American Atheist does, think of two things. The first thing that we do is we run the American Atheist Legal Center, which is run by our new legal director, Allison Gill. And what we're doing with the American Atheist Legal Center is trying to keep the Trump administration from destroying the separation of church and state in this country. And that's a big, tall order, because he has completely decimated the federal bench. So we are filing lawsuits, and we're defending people like Mara, who we mentioned at the earlier part of the show. When they're being assaulted, when their rights are being trampled, we take the cases, but we do it correctly, we do it wisely, and we do it to make sure that we don't make any bad laws. We are the firebrand, so we take the cases a lot of people don't want if they're winnable and if they're usable, and if we're going to make change, what we call impact legislation, or impact lawsuits and impact legislation, where we can change the country in a real way. And right now, we have a federal judgeship which is really crippled. So we're concentrating on the states, and we're concentrating on policy, on public policy, so that we can stop the encroachment and stem the encroachment for as long as possible. This is a very difficult position to be in, and I'm very, very pleased that our legal center is well prepared to do exactly this. On the other side,
I was going to say, Allison's going to be speaking on Sunday, right? She's probably going to go over everything.
Oh, yeah. Allison's going to go over everything that we're going over. And yes, right now she's currently slated to speak on Sunday, but that's all changeable. I don't know if that's actually going to happen on Sunday, but yes, Allison is a very powerful person. And when she speaks, she captivates, and she's eloquent, and she's really smart. And when she takes the stage, people are going to know that the American Atheist Legal Center is being run by a champion of civil rights and a champion of justice. And I am really privileged to have her on my staff. On the other side, we have Nick Fish is running our programs. And our programs right now are really run around Atheist Voter, which is a long-term effort to create the atheist voting bloc from the grassroots up. And this is how we're organizing our 200-odd affiliates to create a network, not just a network of atheists, but a network of atheist activists who are atheists first, activists second. So they put on their atheist shirt and they go campaign for whatever they want to campaign with, but they campaign. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this network, facilitate it, fund it, generate a grassroots, large-scale, nationwide, and we're already doing this, a grassroots, nationwide, large-scale voting bloc, so that when the 2020 elections come around, we intend to affect the turnout of atheists. The turnout for atheists in 2016 was abysmal. We didn't vote. We have 27% of the population, and we were 14% of the voting bloc. So we have to fix that. And we have to start getting people out, getting people registered, getting people motivated, and getting people voting, not just voting, voting as atheists, voting visibly as atheists. So people know that the atheists are voting. So people see that atheists are out there. So people know that the atheists are part of this country and a part of the political system. We are going to get recognized, and that's the main thrust of American Atheists right now. Those two thrusts. So just to let you know, you mentioned money, and I do want to mention money because American Atheists is a nonprofit organization, and I want to make sure that people understand what kind of a nonprofit organization I run. I run a transparent, fully functional, financially stable nonprofit organization.
Best
we
kind.
have our yeah, and it is the best kind, because a lot of nonprofits are run by people who just don't know what they're doing, and and it's a problem because it makes it hard to be a nonprofit when other nonprofits are screwing up. So just let me put some facts on the table here. American Atheist has zero debt. We own our building outright. We have solar panels on the roof. We have our financials audited every year by an independent accounting firm, and we publish those results on the web. So everybody knows how our money is being spent. We are completely transparent and completely debt-free. And that's the way I like to run it. And why? Why do I do that? For a very important reason. Because I'm going to ask everybody for money. Because we have to ask for money. People say, oh, they ask for money. It's just like a church. No, it's not just like a church. Because if you donate money to a church, you don't have any idea ever where that money goes. That money can go right into the pastor's pocket, and you will never know. Oh, the pastor will say, oh, we spent it on charity. But you don't know that's true. You don't see how much is spent on programs. You don't see how much is spent on salaries. But at American Atheists, you do. You know exactly where your money is going. We're not spending it on a mortgage. We're not spending it on rent. We're not spending it on even electricity for our main building. We are spending it on activism. And we need your money because that allows us to do a lot of activism with a little money. So we have 7 employees. We're doing everything with 7 employees.
Wow.
All the things that we do. Yeah, 7 employees. And so we're really, really efficient. We're passionate. I only hire passionate people. I only hire people who are, stay in the office late because they want to, because they have stuff to do. Not because the boss makes them, but because this is important to every single member of our organization. And so, yes, absolutely. American Atheist needs your membership. American Atheist needs your support. Please go to atheists.org/join and please donate to American Atheists. It's 501c3. It's nonprofit. It's tax deductible. And please know what you're doing. You're buying activism. That's what you're doing when you're donating to American Atheists. You're not putting money into this huge barrel and that's just going to be used by the pastor or by me or anyone else. We are very, very strict with our finances. We are independently audited every year, and we publish our results on the web because we want all of you to know that when you donate to American Atheists, you are donating to one of the most efficient organizations in the country. And I'll tell you one more thing before I let you guys speak. I have a book, and my book is called Fighting God. And for my book, I did a lot of research. I have an MBA. I know my way around numbers, and I did a lot of research. And I'm going to make a statement now, which I can't guarantee is true, but I have been making this statement now for 2 years, and nobody has countered what I'm about to say. American Atheists is the only nonprofit organization in the country that can support the assertion via independent quantitative data that we are single-handedly changing this country. I'll say it again. American Atheist is the only nonprofit organization that not only says that we are independently and single-handedly changing this country, but I can supply independent quantitative data from multiple independent sources to back that up. And nobody else has shown me any other organization that can say that. I can show you data and I do, in Fighting God, that shows you that American Atheists, as a singular organization, is changing this country for the better. And that's why I hope everybody, yes, of course, I hope everybody goes out and buys Fighting God, because my book is, I mean, if you want to know what American Atheist is all about, read Fighting God, because that's like me vomiting on the pages forever. And that's exactly what it is. You know? I just got off a book tour. I went on a book tour for 5 countries on 3 continents. And it was an amazing experience. But so my point is that when you donate to American Atheists, you're not only donating to an organization that is transparent and efficient, but effective, really effective, quantitatively, independently, verifiably effective. And that's why I hope everybody who hears you can go to atheist.org/join and pick up a membership and maybe make a little extra donation, maybe make $10 a month of a donation. That makes a big difference. If every one of your listeners could send us $10 a month, you can actually change the way we do business. You will increase the amount of activism that we do. That's the way we do it.
Do you guys offer for the monthly donation? Are you a member then? Is that like,
yes.
So if you were to go, let's say, looking at your website, you have like 10, 25, 50, 100, or you could pick other if you want to be more generous. That officially makes you a member then, correct?
Yes, it all makes you a member. Everything
Awesome.
makes you a member. Any donation beyond like $5 makes you a member. But what we want you to do is, we want you to donate as much as you can, because obviously we want you to donate as much as you can, because that's the way we, that's an obvious point. But I want to make it easy for you to do it. And I want to make it easy for you to do it by my father died just before I became president. And he used to tell me that you never give a customer a reason to say no. And what I'm doing with American Atheists is I'm never giving a donor a reason to say no. I'm trying not to. So I'm taking away all of the reasons not to say no. We are completely transparent. We're independently audited. We have very low overhead. We are very, very efficient. And we have, like I said, quantitative data that supports the assertion that we are single-handedly changing the country.
Well, we're going to try to.
That's some shit, guys. I mean, that's some real shit. And so when you come to this convention, you're going to meet the power players in this movement. You're going to meet the people behind American Atheists. You're going to meet our legal director. You're going to meet our national program director. You're going to meet our membership director. You're going to meet the people who are running the show here, or who are making this happen. You're going to meet some really fantastic people. You're going to meet our new vice president, Kim Abel, is going to be there. She's got a fantastic story. You're going to meet some people who will possibly change your perspective, change your life, perhaps. And so I hope you'll come. I hope you'll donate. And I know you'll have a good time if you can make it to Oklahoma City on Easter weekend.
We're going to do the best we can to get people a link to your book. And the full title of that is Fighting God, an Atheist Manifesto for a Religious World. For anybody interested, just Google it. But we're going to throw the Amazon link into our description. And obviously, we definitely want as many people to go check this out as they can. Financial means, as best as people can do. So travel is a little bit difficult. We're both up here in Michigan, but we're going to try to get the word out as best we can to help bring as many people as we can to this event. Because one day, I definitely plan to be able to get out there and experience the entirety, because American Atheist Conventions always seem like the biggest thing of the year whenever I hear about anything going on in the non-believer community.
Yeah, we don't know how to throw parties. And, it's like I was alluding to earlier, there are some people in this movement who are trying to throw conventions. And, because when you go up on stage, I don't know if either of you perform or do anything on a stage, but part of the thing about doing something on a stage is making it look easy. Okay. And if you're down in the audience and you're looking at that guy playing guitar and you're thinking, wow, that looks easy, right? You're wrong. It's totally not easy, but making it look easy is part of the art form. And when you look at how atheist conventions are run, if you look at what we do, yeah, it looks easy because we're good at it and we make it look easy. The thing is that other people try and do it, and guess what? It's actually not easy at all to run a convention. And some people have gone to these conventions. And some people have gone to conventions, for-profit conventions, and they've just fallen flat. because people try to be edgy, people try to be new and different, and they've fallen flat, and they've had some real tough times out there in the atheist convention circuit. But the American Atheist National Convention, we've been doing conventions for decades, literally. And we know how to do this stuff. And I've been doing this. This is going to be like my seventh convention, like I said, my seventh convention that I'm running as president. And this is going to be, I'm giddy about it. I don't get giddy. I'm not a giddy man. Okay. If people can describe me a whole bunch of different ways, normally giddy is not the descriptor that they would use to describe David Silverman. But this one is pretty out.
Ones I always hear on Fox News is never giddy. That's for certain.
Yeah. And the other thing is, and let's talk a little bit about Fox News, because you see me on TV, and it's always angry. I'm always angry. I'm always fighting. I got veins popping out of my forehead. My face is red, and I'm getting figures in my faces, and I'm putting back, and and so you see a very, very combative David Silverman, and that's okay. That's good. That's part of my job. But what people need to understand, and I write about this a lot in Fighting God, and you're going to see this at the American Atheist National Convention, is that firebrand atheism is about love. Firebrand atheism is about compassion. Firebrand atheism is about being a good person. The reason you go up to somebody, the reason when somebody says, don't we all believe in God? And you say, no, I don't believe in God. In fact, I think God is a myth, and God is a scam, and religion is a scam. People say, oh, you're being so mean. No, we're being nice. We're being good. When we tear religion apart, we're not doing it because we want to be mean. We're doing it because we care about the people who are listening, the victims of religion, the people who are donating their time and their money, who are indoctrinating their children into this shit, the people who are getting involved into this shit because of the only reason is that they were indoctrinated as little children. And this horrible cycle that is damaging our country, that is ripping our country apart, person by person, family by family. These people need to hear the truth. And if they don't hear it from us, they will hear it from nobody. So we say the hard stuff. And yes, people talk shit at us. People swear at us. People get angry at us. Oh, we're not telling them what they want to hear. That's right. I will not tell you what you want to hear, but I will tell you what you need to hear, and I will take flack for it because I'm a nice guy and I care. And that's me being a humanist. That's humanism, right? That's activism. That's humanism. And so maybe we'll just end on this, because I want people to understand that yes, firebrand atheism is hard. It's hard because religion is hard. And it's hard because religion doesn't want anybody to talk badly about it. So they make talking badly about it politically incorrect. Yes. Politically incorrect, naughty. And people say we're bad because we're talking shit on religion. Guess what? Religion is shit. Religion deserves to die. We should all gather together and kill religion dead. Not religious people. Religious people are great people. My mother was a religious person. My grandmother was a religious person. We're not here to hurt anybody. We're here to help people like my mother away from the lie and the con and the scam that is religion. The lie and the con and the scam deserves to die, just like every other con and scam. They all deserve to die. We should live in an honest society. We should live in an evidence-based society. We should live in a compassionate society, not a society that outgroups people of different thoughts and just dehumanizes them to the point where we don't even care if they're starving or sick. We need to care about humanity. We need to care about each other. And we need to do that by getting rid of the lie that divides us, the lies that divide us and cause all the strife and heartache on a micro level and a macro level, on a national level and a personal level. We need to defeat that. We need to kill it dead, because doing that is the right thing to do. And doing it even when it's going to cause you strife, even when people are going to call you names, even when you're going to get a bad reputation, doing it anyways is humanism. It's the nice thing to do. And I hope everybody can join us and find out a lot more. And come to American Atheist National Convention Easter weekend. Learn about what we're doing and why. Read Fighting God. See the data. And see why firebrand atheism is based on love. It's based on compassion. It's based on being good. And it's based on humanism. The reason I call myself an atheist is because it's the humanistic thing to do. That's what we do at American Atheists.
And the reason you run American Atheists is because you love everyone and want to change the world.
That's exactly right.
So awesome, David.
I really do.
You do. I know you are. You are definitely one of the most passionate people, and we do actually deeply admire the amount of service that you've dedicated to the American public.
Definitely.
And I'll tell everybody what, I'll start the trend. There we go. I just went and signed up for a monthly membership for American Atheist. So everybody else should do that. We'll take the link for that and dump it right into the description. So that is the first link that you see. So even if you can't make the convention and have an amazing time, you can at least help support other firebrand atheists and other humanistic compassion adventures to help change the world.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your activism. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. And thank you both for having me on the show on such short notice and for raising the awareness of firebrand atheism at our national convention. I really appreciate it. I hope you can both make it down. And by the way, did I mention Hugh Laurie and free booze? Because Hugh Laurie and free booze.
There we go. Awesome. Thank you again so much, David, for joining us. And everybody stick around because we'll be right back from this quick commercial break.
Hey, this is Keith.
And this is Jen, and we're from Not Another Atheist Podcast.
You're listening to Cellar Door Skeptics.
Join the revolution.
If you'd like to join the ranks of Patreons and sponsor the show, head over to patreon.com/Cellar Door Skeptics. For less than a 20-ounce soda or an energy drink each week, you can help sponsor us, the hosts, and our charity of choice. Patreon helps Cellar Door Skeptics create better content, become better activists, and it's going to help you stay healthier by drinking one less soda or one less energy drink each week. Click the link in the notes of the show to sponsor us today because we bring the discussion with the sources.
Hello, I'm Miss B. Haven.
I'm Demanda Wright.
And we're
promoting secular feminism. And you're listening to Cellar Door Skeptics.
Considering how you want to help Cellar Door Skeptics, head over to iTunes or your favorite podcast app and give us a rating because every rating helps push us in front of new listeners. And since our main goal here at Cellar Door Skeptics is to provide the most accurate information possible, we hope that more ratings will mean that more people get to hear the topics that we're presenting. We don't insist that we get a 5-star rating, but Hannah's favorite number is 5, and the more gold stars he gets, the more special he's gonna feel. So what do you say? Head on over to iTunes or Google Play, give us a rating, and help engage with Cellar Door Skeptics today.
This is Trav Mamone, host of the By Any Means podcast, and you're listening to Cellar Door Skeptics. Prepare for the revolution. We have cookies.
Now, back to the show.
And did I mention Hugh Laurie and free booze? Welcome back to Cellar Door Skeptic. Thank you all so much for joining us for the second half of the show.
It's a pretty exciting thing. Hugh Laurie and whiskey and vodka and beers and wines. I don't know. I'd be pretty pumped up if I was going. I'd be excited.
That's true. Maybe you could go. Maybe you can talk your wife into joining you at an atheist convention. You never know, Hannah. You never know. Miracles
maybe in the future
are possible.
Maybe in the future. We've got a small human going to be appearing on this planet early May. There's no major travel or any of that kind of stuff happening for a while. Just we're rocking and rolling. We're staying local.
Awesome. Anyway, thank you also for joining us through the first segment about the American Atheist Convention. For the rest of the show, we are dedicating it to discussion about guns. Now, we've covered these topics more than one time. This is not something new. That's sad to say. Why are we talking about gun control, gun laws, again and again and again? Well, it seems like America continues to have mass shooting after mass shooting after mass shooting. So we don't know what else to do sometimes other than to have the conversation, to look at some of the different situations and scenarios, and hopefully persuade people to change their minds for more comprehensive gun control. Tonight, I thought we kind of take a little different approach to it. There was a couple of arguments that have come up. One of them that touched a little bit closer to home because they use marijuana. And then another one about, drunk driving. But one of the larger arguments that we're getting out of what we would call Second Amendment constitutionalists, those who have no interest in changing the Constitution or even analyzing it properly, and only want to continue to keep their guns at all costs to America.
So are these literalists then? Like the specific...
Yes, constitutional literalists.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say it's but then even they take a specific to it because they've pulled out the individual notion away from the a well-trained militia, which to me, I mean, the individual argument that they put toward in I guess Reagan era was when that individual thing. So those people are usually arguing something that isn't quite literalism.
Yeah, and so there was an argument that appeared. And appeared. Yeah, in my Facebook, it appears. Things just appear in Facebook. And
a Pikachu appeared.
So do anti-gun conspiracists every time a mass shooting happens. Yeah. It's a little off tangent, but you know how many people I had to unfriend who basically said it was a conspiracy that anybody went in there and shot up the school, and they were like memes of people placing, like, oh, look at this fake person. It's like, all right, look, if you're that crazy that you have that conspiracy, I'm going to tell you what. Stop telling people, like, when it comes to kids dying like that, don't tell people you feel it's a conspiracy. You want to talk 9/11 conspiracy? Hey, okay, that's a little bit easier to swallow. You want to talk chemtrail conspiracy? Okay. But when you talk about schools being shot up and children dying, it's a little hard to take you seriously to the point where I don't just want to defriend you because either you're a extreme troll or the fact that you are such a horrible individual that you can't even keep quiet about something that literally bothers millions and millions of people in our nation.
Well, false flags. I mean, I understand the point. There are cases where the U.S. government has tried using false flags and all kinds of espionage stuff throughout the world, Latin Americas, and those kinds of things during the Wilson era. But, I mean, in today's day and age, you're never going to be 100% certain of anything because of the internet. There's so many sources of information, and because someone can put their information or their opinion out as truth, because they can say this as if it was a fact. Over time, the game of telephone, the weird things come out, and so you're never going to have perfect certainty. And so since you never have perfect certainty, these people start asking questions of questions we'll never have answered. One of my favorites is the why. We attribute all these kinds of things to why. We may never know why, even if the person isn't killed. But that still doesn't, create the slippery slope idea that this is all some kind of facade that, the children are actors. That's the one that's been just difficult to listen to, and I really have been kind of just keeping arm's length away from this, but because you can't fight it all, but sometimes you really do need to just say, well, really, where did you hear that? Where did you hear? What is your source? Please show me your sources, and just make these people use their Socratic method to bury themselves, because in most cases I don't engage, but jeez.
And I'm surprised your one crazy stalker friend, that Moolah guy or whatever, hasn't shown up saying that.
I haven't been posting a whole lot. I really have just kind of said, you know what, I'm not gonna. I don't know. It's been hard to really get energized about getting up and yelling, and in my little, the internet bubble of the people that I agree with me, and then a few people that I haven't unfriended that disagree with me, because it's always the same argument over and over again. It's just I've been a little bit apathetic, kind of concentrating on work and thinking about these kinds of things, just analog instead of digitally.
Yeah, I don't remember what that dude's name is anymore, to be honest with you.
There's Mundingo is his name. He's a horrible, horrible conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, maybe he's not on your friends list anymore.
I haven't looked, but you know what? I wouldn't mind. I have never removed anyone except for someone who actively just directly came out and swore and was completely and utterly offensive. But I have never, just because I didn't agree with you or if you were a conspiracy theorist, blocked anyone. I don't know. It's just something that I don't plan on doing. I will let them, quit because I guess I disagree with them enough until they get exasperated. I've had that happen to Seventh-day Adventists where they just stop posting chick tracks and all that kind of weird stuff on my page because I would just fight them the whole time. But I just don't have that energy in me anymore. I just don't. I don't know.
You see, and I would agree with you except for when it came to that. If you're talking about fake children's death, I'm going to unfriend you.
Well, I haven't seen those. So maybe I've got my trolls have a little bit of ethical standards. I don't know. Maybe they're a little bit of standards in my trolls.
That could be. So the first argument, and they're both essentially the same. The one argument that started, kind of aggravating me a little bit is, people are saying, well, look, we've banned all these drugs, and guess what still happens? Drugs still happen. That's very true. Okay. Get that, understand that. And then people will say, well, look at marijuana. More than, 40% of the United States smokes marijuana, yet here we are banning.
Eating brownies.
Yeah. Here we are. People are trying to ban marijuana. And that's very true. But the final straw for me was when somebody compared drunk driving to the mass shootings. Essentially, the argument was, hey, if we have mass shooting, right, and you want to take our guns away, look at drunk driver. We don't go blame the car. We don't take the car away. We don't say, hey, by the way, no longer can you drive, even though we kind of do. But, we don't preemptively ban vehicles from people that drink or people that are suspected of alcoholism or anything. We don't do any of that. But yet, you want to take away our guns. And that's when I just said, hey, hold on a second. The drug thing, okay, that's a little bit different of a discussion. It's a little bit harder to just outright say, well, you don't understand this, and that. But there is some similarities, and there's a big similarity in the aspect of, drugs have zero intent other than to make you feel good. Can you feel too good? Yeah, but that's all they have is just an intent to feel good. There is an intent behind guns, though.
Some of that synthetic fentanyl stuff, man. I don't know if there's any good intention ever in any of that stuff. The stuff that's like 10,000 times more potent than heroin or whatever. So it's just weird statistic there. I don't really think any of these super synthetic opioids have any actual use in the world.
Maybe not. I don't know. It depends though, because my cousin had to have spine surgery, and she has to be on some strong opioids. Like I can't even imagine. And that we're not just talking like a spinal tap, and definitely not the band Spinal Tap. But she's had like grafts, like spinal grafts. Like that's got to be like one of the most insanely hurtful processes. Painful. Crazy. I can't even imagine. Anyway,
so hey, back to intent, right? So you were on intents for weapons.
Yeah, and so that essentially that's what they were saying, is that we don't ban vehicles because vehicles, are just a tool for people to get around with. People are the dumbasses that get drunk and drive. People that are doing shitty things and killing people with a vehicle, which is very true. But I'm saying there's a huge difference in intent. So one of the things is people who drink and drive aren't necessarily law-breaking citizens normally, right? They aren't out there drinking and driving because they specifically want to kill somebody. If you pick up a gun, your intent is to kill the person at the other end. Whether it's in self-defense or not, your intent is at minimum to scare them, but probably to kill them, to essentially protect yourself from that person. How about this? I guess I'll go a step farther. If you pick up a gun and aim it at somebody, your intent is to kill them, or you're a complete fucking idiot. One of the two. There is no other option there.
Well, I always take intent in a little bit different direction too. We were talking a little bit about this before we started today. Is that when I talk about intent? So we're basically anthropomorphizing these devices to say that people don't kill, or guns don't kill people. People do. So as if guns have some kind of intent, or they would need it before we could possibly ban them. The same with vehicles. Vehicles in design intention. A motor vehicles, internal combustion cars, design intention is transportation, to move people, things, projects, whatever. It's transportation. Now, a gun's original intent, the thing it is designed for, the thing most all modern guns are evolved from, is a weapon of war war and a weapon of hunting. But that weapon of hunting is still designed to kill the target that it's pointing at. A gun itself, its main intention. I know people can get enjoyment from target practicing. I actually enjoy it. I shoot rifles. I have property up north. I actually hunt. But I understand that a gun's sole intention, its design intent, is to kill that which what is pointed at. And then obviously there's skills and marksmanship and things that have changed, and people find interesting about weapons, but there's a difference fundamentally as to what these cars versus guns were designed to do. And that takes a little bit of a change, because it'd be different if a car was designed to kill people and we weren't doing any kind of restrictions to it, which on the other hand, we restrict cars way more than we restrict guns. So the other argument there is like, we're not restricting cars at all, but we kind of do. I mean, you kind of sort of have to have a check every couple of years to make sure you're still good to drive. And you kind of have to have insurance and all this other stuff. And if you get caught not having that, you get in trouble and fined and possibly jail.
Yeah.
I don't
look at how long you had to go through before you could get a gun you could get a gun before you could get a car by yourself. I mean, think about it. How many months did you have to drive, or how many hours you had to drive with your parents or a reasonable adult, right? You couldn't just get in a car and say, "Hey, everybody, I paid my dues. I got a car now. See ya." You didn't get to do it. You spent probably not as much training as maybe we should spend. But, you do spend quite a bit of time training. I mean, you got to pay for a class. You have to go to a class. You have to pay for a test. You go to a test. You're evaluated by a state instructor. All of them are run specifically, by a set strict regulations through the state. And then on top of that, you have to practice with it. There's none of that for gun control.
You've got to register it. You have a driver's license with your name and number and address, and your social security is in the paperwork somewhere. And anytime every year you have to get new tabs on your license plate to make sure everything's up to date. You got to pay insurance. If you live in the Detroit area, you have to pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a year to have insurance. I mean, it's a big deal having a car. It really is. Like I have never spent. I purchased my rifle. Actually, my rifle was purchased for me by my father, and I have a small .22 rifle, and those were both purchased. And that's the only money, that's the only regulation that has ever happened for them. Not $1 has been spent in checking up on where they are. They could be anywhere in this country right now. Nobody has ever looked into anything that I have ever done with those two guns. They're still in my possession. They still have trigger locks, and they're still very safe in my house. But that's not always the case. So, I mean, I don't know. If it came to it where I had to put up a little bit of money every couple years, and they had to check and see where my guns were, and maybe I had a limit as to 100 rounds or 50 rounds, which why would you need more than that in all reality? I would be okay with that as a responsible gun owner and a hunter. I would be okay giving up some of my freedoms to help protect from other people dying. This isn't a difficult decision in my book.
And we could come back to that in a little bit. You're what you want to give up, or what you're willing to give up, or what you're willing to see changed as a gun owner. Now you are a socialist, so that does play into it a little bit. I'm sure somebody will come back and be like, "Well, he's a socialist gun owner. He doesn't, blah blah blah." So I'm sure that'll play into that. Now, let's go back to the argument of drunk driving versus mass shootings, right? A lot of people are going to be like, "Well, if you get in the car, there's intent to drive if you're drunk, right? You're inebriated. That's no excuse. You're breaking the law. You're going to do this. You're going to do that." But what we don't look at, or what a lot of people don't look at, is with drunk driving, those people aren't breaking the law regularly, right? That's not like a factual statistic that basically all of a sudden, here we are. These people are out doing drugs every night. These people are out raping. These people are out stealing. These people aren't always doing those things. For example, I will definitely say that I have been over the legal limit at least once or twice in my life and gotten behind the wheel of a car. I have never once killed somebody.
Me either.
I have kind of wanted to, but I've never actually once done that. And while now that I understand the consequences of drunk driving, I understand how bad it can be, what you can do to take away lives, I knew some of that, but the circumstances of my life didn't prevent me from doing it, right? But I didn't willfully go out to a bar and say, I'm going to drive home.
I intend on driving home.
I'm going to intend to drive home and kill somebody with my vehicle.
Yeah.
Was it a higher probability? Sure.
It's a bad decision, but in most cases, a drunk driver hitting someone isn't a premeditated thing. This isn't first degree. It's usually a manslaughter thing. It is a horrifying, stupid accident. It is a bad decision that ends horrifyingly. But this is an interesting statistic. So there's a website called the Brady Campaign, and bradycampaign.org, and it's got a bunch of really good statistics on it. And just in in basic average, in 1 year averages and everything, they have the number of people who die. 17,102 American children and teens are shot in murders, assaults, suicides, and suicide attempts, unintentional shootings, or by police intervention from ages 0 to 19. 17,100 people are killed in accidents along those lines or whatever, and the number of car accidents is also really high. But all of those people there, the number of suicides, unintentional shootings, that's a small number compared to the number of people who are murdered. And so, just from kids alone, this is 2,737 kids die from gun violence every year. That's 1,606 murdered, just under 1,000 from suicide, and then we have accidents and stuff like that. But the number of accidents is not nearly as high as the number of murders and intentional suicides. So in most cases, this where it's an intentional suicide. With drunk driving accidents, like the number of those that are like someone says, I'm really upset, I'm gonna go find that one person I hate, and I'm drunk as hell, and I'm just gonna run them over. Like that number, that number, I don't even need to look up the statistics. I guarantee you, it is way lower than the numbers that I just read off. It's just, this is a basic bit of common sense numbers that there's a difference in what it is, the intention of the two weapons, and the correlation you may see that a lot of people die from drunk driving. The intent between those two things is very different.
Yes. Now, if we continue to move forward with this discussion, right, and we say, okay, what's happening in the United States, or let's say even over the last 20 to 30 years, we've seen an increase in punishment. We've seen an increase in the amount of money it costs to own a car. We've seen the amount of fines and that go along with the drunk driving conviction.
Oh man, the super drunk law, like a $20,000 bill, that'll put you in debt for the rest of your life for some people.
Yes. And so we look at that, right? And we say, okay, has these larger punishments and larger, laws been successful at curbing the issue? It has.
Yes.
The statistics actually show that it has. Now, you have to ask yourself why. Because again, in a second, we're going to compare this to a mass shooting, right? We'll compare this to a mass shooting, and we could say, okay, so if larger laws work, harsher laws work, then great, right? That's what we would want to move to. So in the drunk driving case, it does work. I'm not saying it works for everybody as a deterrent, but it has to at least be working if the number of convictions are going down, if the number of deaths are going down. You're seeing that. And you're seeing that because, like you said, nobody wants a $20,000 bill. It's kind of funny. We had somebody else I know, and I can't say where I know him from because it'll give it away. They got caught, right? Now, they recently got caught. And they didn't get the super drunk law. They pled down from it. Now, they got caught sitting in a parking lot with their car running.
Wow.
So they weren't even driving. But, the amount of stuff that person has to go through right now, it's like, if I had to do that, I would probably lose my job. I mean, I can't even imagine going in my work and saying, I got to be called randomly to go breathalyze. I might not make it in this morning. Oh, I'm sorry, you got to cover my meeting for me, Yeah. I mean,
what they've done is they've created just a really heavy deterrence and disenfranchisement from that. Like it really is something that, and on top of that, like the youth were told, drunk driving is really bad. A lot more than as people were told in older times in the past. And so like it's something that you grow up knowing, and it's ingrained in there. So like obviously people get drunk and they drive, but the number of people that are like, I should probably just find a friend or somebody can drive me home, that number has gone up. This is it's a self-awareness. And so using those same kinds of things, teaching gun safety, teaching those kinds of and having restrictions saying, listen, anytime you touch a gun or anytime there's any a purchase or anything, there's all kinds of rules and restrictions and all these things that you have to go through. Like that kind of self-awareness and knowing about that could potentially dissuade people from the ease of, well, it's really easy just to go to my local hardware store and buy a long rifle. Those kinds of things, the people who think that this will extrapolate go out and into the argument and say that more restrictions on guns will help reduce that their usage in violent situations. This is an argument that we've heard for years and years and years, and the statistics have shown but the gun death and gun violence has gone down overall throughout this country. I don't know if the argument that you have is going to talk about that at all, but the number of mass shootings has gone up. And so we kind of have this, this yin and yang thing here where we're seeing a safer world relatively in the United States, but we're seeing more and more of these mass shootings, which seems to be kind of associated to the weapons that have been recently re-legalized after a short 10-year ban.
Yeah. So if we see that we're able to successfully curb this through larger punishments, right?
Yeah. With the drunk driving.
Yeah. We can explain that these laws have worked to prevent it. So now we do have gun laws. We have gun control laws. We have quite a few of them, in fairness. And we do have regulation. And like you said, hey, if that's the case, why wouldn't we see this go down? Why wouldn't we see a comparative thing? I mean, what do you think the punishment for walking into a school and shooting it up is?
I would assume life in prison or, death if you're in Texas or something.
So think about it, right? So it's life in prison or death. If we're seeing it go up, do you really think these laws are actually deterring these people? And that kind of leads me to the next point that says, hey, think about it. What's the likelihood of being arrested your first time drunk driving? Pretty slow. What's the likelihood of being arrested or killing yourself at a mass shooting? How often do you get away with it? How often does that happen? Now, I'll be honest, I don't have that specific statistic, but I would wager that mass shootings don't go unpunished very often. It just don't, especially nowadays.
If you're a white guy, more than likely the police won't kill you. They'll actually arrest you and bring you in, but that's something that
that's a whole. Yeah, you're right. That's a whole different thing, which we could talk about. We're not even going to get into the teachers and guns thing, but that's kind of like an argument against it. What's going to happen when police walk into a school and there's 25 people with guns? How do you know which one's the armed shooter? I guess you got to look for the vest. That's the only thing you know. Yeah, he's got a bulletproof vest. We know he's the shooter.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing. This is another argument that I heard from NPR that I really think this is a good argument. So I mentioned earlier that 17,000 American children and teens are shot in murders, and I said that 2,700 students die from gun violence. Well, I have another website here from this is at times.com, and they said that since 2013, 6 adults and 35 children have been killed in all of the school shootings. Well, 12 adults and 92 children have been injured. And so if we basically take those numbers, we have the 35 children have been killed out of that number that I pulled from the Brady website, which is roughly 2,737. The number of children killed in schools since 2013 is only 1.2% of the number of children killed last year. So it's important to keep in mind that the number of kids being killed in these schools while on the media and on television and horrifying and terrible and destructive and bad, the number of kids that die not in schools is way larger. The number of people who die from, these guns being around and not some crazy person with a gun busting into a school, that is way higher. And so we need to keep an eye on that. The majority of these children that are being killed are not being killed by the crazy guy going into the school. They're being killed by, friends and family. Usually most of these gun shootings happen people close to the family, boyfriends of the parents and sister and girlfriends of the parents or whatever, like people close to the family, and then accidents in the family and suicides from guns being available and not properly locked up, and obviously mental health help and stuff like that. But the number of people we're trying to save is way larger if we look at the gun deaths overall, not just concentrate specifically on the children. Because 1.2%, those 35 children, if they were in my life, it would have destroyed my life. But if we have to take a utilitarian look every once in a while to try to think of what the best for the country is. And looking at that larger number, we can save way more people if we look at gun laws on the whole, on the macro level, than just in these schools, which is all that, Trump's been saying, give teachers guns. What about all the kids who die in houses blowing them, shooting themselves because their parents didn't lock up their guns? Way more of those kids die every year. So there's another perspective that we need to keep an eye on too.
And that's very true. That's one thing that we didn't really have outlined tonight, but that's actually a really true statistic. You look at still gun deaths, and gun control laws will help on all facets. Now, if we go back to the article and we talk about, we talked about intent a little bit, right? We already talked about that. A lot of people that get behind the wheel are either stupid, negligent, uneducated, or they're addicted. You could just be an addict if you get behind your vehicle and drive. That is 100% a possibility. That can happen. Now, most people don't walk into a bar thinking, I'm going to get so wasted, I'm going to get in a car and kill somebody, right?
Yeah, that's not there. We don't intend. I've driven drunk. It's not a safe thing to do. I didn't intend to drive drunk. It was just something that I said, you know what, I can handle it. And you get home and you realize, man, I really shouldn't have done that. And it's a learning thing. You really do most of us have a holy crap moment. And hopefully nothing bad happens in that moment.
And when you look at mass shooters, they have specific intent to create harm inside of wherever they're going to kill. They aren't going there going, hey, maybe I'm going to shoot somebody today. Hey, maybe the alcohol told me it was a good idea. They're going there with the intent to kill, and they're going there with the idea that the chances are they're going to either kill themselves, be shot in the process and killed, or captured. They're not going there thinking, I'm going to create a string of events. Except for maybe there's that one time there was that sniper. A couple of times when there's snipers, those people, maybe they think they're going to get away, right?
The DC sniper, that was pretty.
And in Texas, they had that sniper.
Well, he didn't think he was getting away. He barricaded the clock tower. He knew he was going to die in there. He actually wrote his will out ahead of time and donated his brain to science to have them do an autopsy and find out why he was. He knew he had some form of PTSD, and he was a military man, and he knew something was wrong, and he just didn't know what it was. And he put in his his death note or whatever that he's like, I want my brain to be looked at because I know something's wrong and I can't stop myself. I mean, there's some crazy stuff out there. The school shooters and the people who do these mass shootings, it's premeditated in most cases. If there is some cases where someone gets, inebriated and goes and shoots up something, I bet you that's a minority. I would love anyone listening to me that can refute me on this. Go ahead, send me the number. I will redact my position, but I would say that the majority of the people who go and do this stuff, it's premeditated. They have to acquire ammunition. You have to acquire weapons. You have to plan this out a little bit. And this isn't a crime of passion. A crime of passion is relationships. A crime of passion isn't a school or a workplace shooting.
Yeah. And I had a little bit of pushback that say you can't regulate intent, right? You can do whatever you want, but you're never going to be able to regulate intent. You can't always predict intent.
Minority Report, Philip K. Dick kind of stuff. Yeah, the precogs predicting the future.
Yeah. And my answer to that is you're right. You can't legislate intent, but you can legislate the tools used by those who intend to do harm. You can reduce the amount of tools that are being used. Hell, you can even classify and eliminate certain types of private sales to owners, right? And if you eliminate these types of guns, these type of sales, you put stronger laws in place, you're going to limit the access people have, for good or for bad, for that. Now, we go back to the marijuana thing, and people are like, well, look at drugs. We regulated all these drugs, and people are still getting them. Yes, but their sole purpose of getting them is to not harm another individual. Very rarely do marijuana dealers go, hey, I got a QP for you, bro. Hey, come on over. I want to see you smoke the whole thing. Even heroin dealers aren't going, hey, I made an extra strong batch with some elephant tranquilizer in it today. I want you to die so that you never come back and buy my shit again. No, they don't do that.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference between the war on drugs, the discussion about drug dealers and their intent, and the intent of somebody walking into a school or a building or a music event and blowing people away. Completely different, my friend. Completely different.
The drinking and the drugs thing, it gets a little bit tiring. So like you basically have the libertarian perspectives, right? Is that, you know, this is kind of like this is weapons. This is give people the most freedom, but really, when it comes down to it, like what we're talking about here is a situation where the people who are people who are arguing a lot of times for this is the libertarian perspective. Again, I mentioned that where people are saying that this is a maximum freedom, trying to guarantee and maximize the amount of freedom that we have, and in the end, what we're doing here is we're changing the argument away from common sense gun control, where a lot of the people who have guns are like, okay, I'm fine with adding some restrictions. I'm okay with adding waiting lists. I'm a good guy. I have a couple of guns, or I can wait a few days or a few weeks to get guns. This isn't that big of a deal. Waiting list, that kind of stuff, most of us are fine with that. Gun registration, also, once again, the majority of the United States, the people in this country, are kind of okay with registering that stuff. But one of the things we always hear about is this misdirection when it comes into the mental health. So like Trump says, we need to fight mental health. We need to help mental health. I will call BS on all of the people who say that we need to help mental health. You know why? Because all of those people who have been saying we need to fight mental health and we need to not touch gun laws, they all have been voting to remove things like the Affordable Care Act, that mandatory government spending into American health care. And none of them have supported any of the Democratic bills or any of the moderate bills or any of the left-sided bills that say we're going to fund and really help with mental health in this country. Anytime that comes up, it's too much money. It's too costful. You're
right. You just got to be very careful there, though, Hannah, because where I'll disagree a little bit with you, and maybe it's not a disagreement, but maybe it's just a viewpoint, sliding scale, looking at point. On my side is the mental health thing. Yeah, they're not funding it, not for reasons they care about mental health or not. They could use the argument against you that technically speaking, mass shootings have nothing to do with mental health. It's not the same. That argument's kind of a dead argument. Now they could use that. That's not why they're not voting, but again, they could use that argument against you in a conversation.
Well, all I use is the basic argument that we have when it comes to the drugs and alcohol argument. What we've done is we've argued the legalization and increasing mental health, increasing addiction health, increasing those types of things. So those are natural deterrents, finding people who are putting up red flags and helping them. Thinking about all of the police, all of the authoritarian measures we have in place to catch people who are putting up red flags. Obviously the kid in Florida who shot up everyone, he put up red flags all over the place, creating deterrence in, healthcare to help people, from the start, making it easy to get healthcare and stuff like that. Like that is something. If you're going to say we need to fight mental problems, mental health issues in this country, you have to put your money where your mouth is. You can't just say whenever there's a gun or a gun violence event or a shooting that it's not the guns, it's mental health. And then when there's an opportunity to fund mental health, you cut mental health funding. There's a catch-22 there. That's what I'm pointing at, is that anytime these people who say it's not the guns, it's mental health, and then they give an opportunity to fund mental health, they say no. So which is it, man? Which one do you want?
Exactly. So, we have another article, and this one's like 5 years old, and I don't agree with everything in the article, but the highlights of that, the portions of that article is that we got to be about comprehensive gun control, right? We got to be about fixing the laws. And while it's easy for me to stand on a soapbox, get angry, which I took something to reduce my anger level tonight, is we could talk about that, right? We can stand on soapboxes. I could say I want to ban guns. Some of me probably does want to. Is it sensible or reasonable? Probably not. Okay? So that's fine. I can admit that, I do grandstand a little bit sometimes. I do kind of go a little off the wall. But we can all agree that, like you mentioned earlier, look at all the regulations for cars versus guns. Think about it this way. Guns are not regulated in the same manner. There's licensing with written and practical tests, frequent renewal, including updated photo and medical questionnaires, specialty licensing and training for specialty products. You can't get in a semi and drive it. You and I can't get in a militarized Humvee and drive it. You got to be certified to do certain things, right?
Yeah.
There's effective enforcement of product safety and regulations. There's a lot of money. It's a huge industry to go after, cars for not being able to regulate or living up to expectations. There's special locks, anti-theft devices. I have a discount because I have an anti-theft device in my vehicle. There's a discount for it in my insurance. Yes. You should actually look at yours. You probably have one too you can get if you have Progressive. Wow. I don't know how much of a discount it is, but whatever.
I have AAA, and maybe they'll give me like $20 or something.
Yeah,
I'm game.
So yeah, it's still money that you don't have to pay out, right? There's manufacturer-funded safety research. That's huge, and there's tons of movies and things that talk about that side of the industry, right? They're adopted by manufacturers who have identified best safety features, right? And they don't always worry about costs. Somebody saying we need emergency brakes. I don't, auto industry only went for so long saying, yeah, but that's going to cost us, 4% of our profits. We can't do that. Eventually the government stepped in and said, hey, hello, I don't care how much it costs you. It's going to reduce death. I mean,
I gotta say this, dude. Every time you say the hello thing, all I hear is Biff. Hello, McFly.
I'm sorry. It's a habit, It's a habit.
Well, like you talk about the health thing, the Tanaka airbags. The company just went bankrupt, as far as I know. They were creating airbags that weren't quite up to snuff, and they were just fined like something like $20 billion something, basically because they had too much metal in them and they were blowing up too fast, and they were basically shooting shrapnel into people's bodies. Ugh. Like people died from their airbag going off. Like, if you need anything more terrifying, so like there are regulations that are in place, safety regulations, and like these companies get destroyed because they're dangerous. These kinds of things are something that regulation could be a good thing.
Yeah.
If looking into gun death.
Yeah, think about it this way. I work in manufacturing, and if we have a safety violation and OSHA comes in and they fine us, do you understand what happens? So we just had this new ISO certification, right, at Steelcase.
Which one?
14,001, I believe.
Okay, yeah, that's like logistics or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an environment. No, it's environmental. It's an environmental thing.
That's good.
Steelcase is really big into in the environment thing. We actually have a couple of facilities that are certified green. So,
wow, are they LEED at all?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't want to say on air yes or no because I don't know the answer. I should probably, but I.
LEED is the one that's like really big. So like LEED bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And like if you're LEED certified, like that's a big deal. That's cool. I didn't know that your facility was like that. It's awesome.
And we have space safety inspectors that literally walk around more than once a month, and they dig through our trash looking for recyclables in there. And if they find them, they come into my office and drag me or the other manager out to look and take pictures. And then they write this internal thing called a QMN against us, and we have to answer all this stuff. We have to do all this.
Did you fill out your recycling TPS report?
Exactly. That's exactly it, Hannah. I mean, in fairness, that's the same thing. We have to do all. I mean, and you have no idea. And that's internal. That's just an internal process that they've created because of the fines that come along with it. So we went to this new certification, right? And we had to have these meetings, mandatory meetings. Even if I don't even work on the floor, I don't ever touch recycled material. I had to go to these meetings. Then I had to go to the management level meetings, and then I had to go to a afterglow, what they call not an afterglow. Jesus. It's an after our training meeting to talk about how we can utilize this as a cost reduction initiative through Steelcase and all these different things.
It doesn't sound like the usual after party. I don't know.
There was no alcohol and there was no dancing at all.
You didn't go to the Crush downtown GR at the Bob and do your...
No, it was very serious. But, we had all these things, right? And we had all these things come up. And now we actually have actual state inspectors coming through the building. There are these people, I don't know if they're from OSHA, I don't know who the hell they're from, but we have these people actually coming in that are inspectors that they're going to randomly quiz anybody here. We had to have this huge, we had a huge audit with our team, and we went through all these things, and for the next 4 days, we got to constantly talk about this stuff.
So here's something. Then take that whole scenario, right? You're at the local gun club. Where I grew up, it was the Caledonia Gun Club. People there they go, they shoot, they enjoy recreational firearms or whatever. You're at the local gun club and you're firing away. And let's say somebody comes by and just checks to make sure everybody's paperwork's in order. Papers, please. Is this a legal weapon? Do you have registration? Do you have the serial numbers? Are they attributed to the proper driver's license? Those kinds of things. These are all responsible gun owners, people that would be at a gun club or something. Because I really would hesitate to think that, let's say a felon is there shooting his friend's weapons or something. That's a rare occurrence. So these are kinds of things where let's say, some administrative person is coming to check to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. These are regulations that most of us would be common sense. This is fine. Let's just keep an eye on what's going on. Let's get more information and make sure people are being safe. Whatever. These are little things that if you ask the average person out there in the United States, they would probably be like, yeah, that's fine. We can make some kind of middle ground commiseration there, a compromise there.
Exactly.
It's not too out there, and that's the kind of the base point that I like to come from on these is that there are a lot of regulations and stuff. Everything is really regulated in this country. It just seems that weapons and firearms have kind of gotten the pass because of the power and lobbying power of the NRA, and I would love to see a little bit of a change to take away some of my rights to maybe help some of those, because that's the social contract, right? I will give up some things to help protect other people in this country, and I really think that is something, an internal problem that I could help by giving up some of that. An external threat from other countries, maybe my firearms or whatever, I could do the best I could to help protect this country. But in all realities, the biggest threat to the United States is really internal, is domestic. Most of domestic terrorism is probably the biggest threat to our country still. So I think that's a bigger deal.
Yeah, and I agree. And as we wrap the show up tonight, we could talk a little bit about Australia, but we don't really have to. I don't. At this point, we've talked about
them before, haven't we?
We have. I kind of consider looking at the laws that Australia has in place as the same thing as we look at the laws for drunk driving, right? They didn't put laws that punish people per se. They put laws that restricted, that limited the amount of guns, that increased the amount of money you had to spend to get guns. Everything is in different classifications. If you want an AR-15, you have to have some super duper special classification, because what are you going to need it for? You have to join hunting clubs. You have to join all these other different things. So, we could talk about it, but I find it almost a fruitless effort here, right? We're not asking for you to give up all your guns. We're not even asking, because I'll be honest, I don't even know if America would actually churn over their guns the same way Australia has. They've churned millions of guns. Would that happen in America? I don't know. I kind of hope it would, but I can't guarantee that it will.
I think the number of people in this country makes it a little more difficult. Australia, well, it's a bigger country. I don't believe they have the same population we do. But here's just a real quick cool thing. I was also another thing just listening through NPR One. Portugal. Portugal is a country who had a heroin and drug problem, a really, really bad one. We're talking hundreds and thousands of people dying every year like a big deal for as small of a country as it is. And what they did was a full drug legalization. But what they did that was different was they took all of the money that they took, or that they had previously spent in incarceration and locking up and in drug enforcement and policing. They took every bit of that and they put it into rehabilitation and helping people and protecting, people that were at risk for becoming addicted and something like that. If the United States took all of the money that we took putting people in jail for drugs and putting in people in jail for violent crimes and put that into stopping and fighting those kinds of crimes, which would also come into this gun violence thing. If we took the money away from all of these this incarceration nation that we have, the most people in the world in jail, took that kind of money and put it into helping those people and creating social programs to make these people functional and productive members of society, I really think that would curb some of these issues that we have when it comes to trying to restrict gun control and gun laws. Is if we were helping the people, because it always comes down to an economic thing for me. I really think that people, if they had the basic help, these kinds of shootings would not be as common.
And that's true. And as we close the show out, that's one of the big things. Australia regulated the crap out of guns. So they put all these laws in place. They didn't just. It's not a full-on ban. No.
It isn't full ban. I thought it was close.
It's close. You have to get certain registrations. You have to be, licensed. It's not 100% consistent through all the states over there, but they put very strict gun control laws in place. And some of us are sitting around saying, I don't want to ban guns completely. An AR-15 for me, if a tank rolls down my neighborhood, or if the Marines swoop in, or even the basic army swoops in to take over my neighborhood, chances are me and a few other people having AR-15s and shotguns are not going to change that. We're still going to be slaughtered. We're not going to hold them up. It would help if, for whatever reason, the army only had a limited amount of guns too. Then I would agree with you. And I'm honestly not totally against de-arming police officers or regulating the shit out of that as well, because we see a lot of unarmed black people and minorities being slaughtered. But
yeah, we can both get behind non-militarization of the local police departments. I think we're both comfortably behind that.
Yeah. But again, we look at what is one of the big things. It's a disposition, right? It's a understanding. It's a belief. It's a cultural mindset. That, folks, that's exactly what's preventing the United States from stepping into action. For Australia, it was 150 people being murdered up until 1996, and that's what changed the attitude towards shootings and all these other things. But it was that silent majority that all of a sudden came out that said, hey, this is the straw that broke the camel's back. What's it going to be for America, folks? When are we going to get to that point? It's obviously not children being shot in schools. Oh, and it's not that they've been shot in schools more than one time in a year. If that doesn't move you, I need to understand what's going to move you, what's going to create the change. Because we don't want to get to the point where all of a sudden they decide they're going to take all of our guns away. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Cellar Door Skeptics. We'll be back next week with a little bit more of a lighthearted episode talking about sex, and we're going to take some weird quiz that I'd never heard of. Thank you all, and have a great night.
You've been listening to a presentation of Cellar Door Skeptics. Check us out on Spreaker, cellardoorskeptics.com.